Welcome to episode 47 of Inside Politics, for teens, by teens, where I explore the politics and issues impacting our generation. I'm your host, Christina Lee, and today I'm focusing on the intersection of social networking and public policy. For this, I've invited Nick DePorter, Senior U.S. Public Policy and Government Affairs Manager at LinkedIn. Nick, how are you doing today?
Great. How are you doing?
I am doing well, thank you.
Thanks
So
for
let's so let's
thanks
jump
for the
right in.
invite.
Huh?
I'm sorry. I was just saying thanks for the invitation.
Oh, yes, of course. All right, cool. So I guess the first question is, how does your work at LinkedIn interact with public policy?
What we do in my role, I oversee all of our state and local policy and government affairs work. I focus primarily on taking our workforce information and aggregate and sharing it with policymakers. For example, I can go into the governor of Arizona's office and show him what the state workforce looks like through LinkedIn's eyes. So that's the caveat. All the information that we are able to produce is through our membership. I think we're over, pushing up on 750 plus million members worldwide. And in a lot of markets like the Bay Area and certainly a lot of big business markets in the US, we have great market penetration. So we're able to go into a mayor, to a county official, a governor, and just give them a good snapshot of what their workforce looks like. Where they've gone to school, where they're working, what kind of job transitions they've made, what kind of skills they maintain on their profile. And with that, we're also able to look at the actual jobs that get posted. So we're able to see what jobs are getting posted, what are in demand, what certifications are in demand, and a lot of that information has been used by policymakers to help inform how they're investing in workforce programs. So as COVID-19 hit, and we saw a mass exodus from the hospitality industry, for example, we're looking at skills similarity with where some of the overlap could be, where some of the in-demand jobs are. So how could someone pivot from being a bartender at a hotel that's closed down and maybe work in customer service or a courier service or something that is more in demand currently. So it was all about right now for us is sharing the most timely and relevant workforce data with policymakers in the hopes that they'll make data-driven decisions.
Understood. So is this an example of a public-private relationship?
I guess it could be in some ways. We're very public with our information that we're sharing with our policymakers. So we are basically in with every state, certainly in the U.S. and all major cities. We do have a couple examples of public-private partnerships. One would be the New York City Recovery Data Partnership, where we're one of several tech companies that are providing data to help New York City with their recovery efforts. So in this case, we're showing them our LinkedIn hiring rate, which is showing the overall numbers of citizens that are getting jobs in the city, and analysts within the city are using that information for various purposes. So we do engage in several partnerships like that, but we also just keep it pretty broad as well.
Understood. So I guess for this sort of relationship, is LinkedIn the one going to the government, or is the government coming to LinkedIn to ask for the data?
It's kind of a little bit of both. It's been a lot of us going out to them originally, just showing them that we have the data. The other piece is that we're not selling this data. We are, excuse me, wins for us is if they're just using the data and leveraging it in the field. So we're getting more and more as we're working through these great organizations like National Governors Association, National League of Cities, National Association of State Workforce Agencies, National Association of Workforce Boards. All of these groups are helping amplify these data insights that we have. So now we're seeing a lot more incoming our way, where the government leaders are saying, hey, let's ask LinkedIn what their opinion is on our digital workforce in the city of Tulsa, for example. So yeah, we're excited that we're getting a lot more incoming.
Understood. So I guess like how do you see the effect of the data that you provide to the government? Like does that affect LinkedIn in any way or does it or like I guess like how can you see the effect of that?
Um, I guess I would just point back to, it just gives adds credibility to our data. The state of Ohio is an example where they're literally using our data to confirm that the data that they're collecting is correct. They're overlapping it over their data. They're making sure it is completely aligned. They're taking the skills and the certifications that we're curating and making sure that they're training and investing towards that. So that's a win for us. I guess there's no monetary win for us because there's no necessarily money coming our way, but there's huge wins in credibility because our data is being shown that it's truly being leveraged for good out there in policymaking.
Very cool. And I guess from a statistical perspective, I guess like the people whose LinkedIn would have to have access to technology, right? So how does the data account for, I guess, the lack of maybe like lower skilled workers who might not have access to LinkedIn?
Absolutely. Um, that's a huge line of business that has been going on internally for the past year plus, where they're really looking to show a value proposition for those who have not needed LinkedIn, or to your point, have not had access to the technology to get LinkedIn. So you're going to see a lot more, I think, in the coming year that's going to show how we can get more people on the platform that maybe don't have a 4-year degree, or that's definitely the way the platform tends to lean. But we're seeing that trend start to change as more and more nurses and plumbers and people who have not necessarily needed LinkedIn in the past are finding value in the training, the reskilling, LinkedIn learning, and really what you and I talked about, still the networking part of our professional development.
And I guess like with this sort of data-driven policymaking, how have you seen this I guess like gain more relevance over I guess like the recent past as data has become more ubiquitous?
It's been nice to see. I have found, so again, I'm on year 5 here. I've definitely sensed more buy-in to the use of private data. I think it used to be, very quickly when I'd meet with a policymaker, they'd ask me, well, how does this measure up with BLS? Because that's what they know and that's what the standard would be. We were able to, over time, really show and build that confidence in our data by matching it with BLS and showing how we do compare over time, but also showing how the upside of our data is that we can get it a lot faster. So Christina, you decide when you decide where to go off for college and you change your location on your LinkedIn profile, we know right away, and we can report that as part of some of our workforce reports, where we're actually showing migration trends. So, someone moves from Phoenix and they move to Seattle. That's, -1 for Phoenix, +1 for Seattle. So even a lot of those migration trends have been super valuable as well to policymakers.
Understood. And I guess how do you see this field of data-driven policymaking, I guess expanding in the future?
I think I'm seeing more digital officer type roles that are serving in cabinets for senior elected officials, in governors' offices, in large cities. I'm seeing, basically that data science officer or data science person taking a more prominent role in leadership positions. Certainly when it comes to workforce, but also across the board decisions in offices. And it's so true that the offices and the states and the localities that are going to lead on that are really going to be at the forefront of change that way, when they're using data to help make a lot of those decisions.
Understood. And I guess, like, do you think that if people ignore data, it will come back to bite them now that society like uses technology so much?
Gosh, it'd be hard to ignore it just because it's so there and it's so plentiful. There's so many ways to slice and dice the data that all it can do is improve the way you're serving your community. So yeah, in a lot of ways, I guess it would could come back to bite policymakers in that they just missed opportunities. Where, hey, if you would have saw that data a year ago, we would have known that there was going to be a lack of welders in your region, and we could have pushed the training investment programs in that direction. So I think that's where it's important to pay attention to it when you're looking at trends, when you're forecasting. Without that, it would just kind of be just more of a guessing game, and like to avoid that as much as possible in all aspects of life.
Sure. And I guess like data can do like, as you said, like you can slice it in so many ways, but like, do you ever like, what are the dangers of like having so much data? If any?
Um, well, one of the things that we're ultra conscious of is privacy. So I'll give you some examples where, some of the states where we have a smaller population of members, like maybe a South Dakota. Our membership numbers could be so low in that when we report the aggregate numbers by industry, for example, we don't want to be able to identify, Christina as the one data scientist in Wyoming that works at X company. So we're always extra conscious of the data and how we report it. So I think that's probably the biggest challenge is making sure that we're always, reporting in aggregate and making sure that we're, like I said earlier, keeping that members first mentality when we're reporting the data so that no one feels like the integrity of their profile has been compromised in any way.
Sure. And I guess when you provide this data to policymakers, has like LinkedIn ever considered like letting the public also see this data?
Yeah, absolutely. So there's been instances where policymakers have intertwined it in one of their state of the state addresses or news releases. So there has been times where the data has gone public in some ways
Very
through announcements or through pieces that are coming out through the regions.
sure. So I also know that you've worked on the economic graph for LinkedIn. So for those viewers who aren't familiar with the project, could you explain what that was?
Sure, absolutely. So economic graph is a vision of our former CEO, Jeff Weiner, is to have every member of the workforce have a profile, every job that's available in the world have a the job up on the platform, every educational opportunity up on the platform. And that's what really drives the insights that I'm talking about that we're sharing. So those are the exact kind of numbers that I'm reporting to, Governor X when I'm going into their state. I'm saying, here's how many members you have, here's how many educational institutions you have, here's how many businesses you have. The goal is to have, everyone around the world on that so that we can really get a really, really clear picture about what the workforce is. So that when I'm going in, or when anyone on the team is going into a policymaker's office, we can go in with the utmost confidence of here's truly what your workforce really looks like. We know where all the job maps, we can do career pathways and see how people get from point A to B. So that's kind of how it's gone, and it's manifested itself into some of these wonderful data reports that we've been able to supply to regions, and a lot of them are available right on our site, where you can grab right off of our economic graph LinkedIn site, where you can pull for your stats for your own region, and then there's also a career explorer tool where you can go in and put in the job you currently have, and it actually spits out a list of skills that you have attained through that job, and may give you some ideas of other jobs that you could potentially be interested in based on your background. So all things that we heard from policymakers that were good tools that we decided to make public for everybody.
Very cool.
Yeah.
So I guess like from your work, like where do you see the economy going in the future? Or maybe like even like as we're in the midst of this pandemic,
Sure.
what changes have you seen and do you think that we will continue to see?
What an easy question. Um, um, well, one thing I do know is that we are seeing, people joke and talk about robots taking people's jobs. That's not quite what we're seeing, but we definitely are seeing a huge amount, like a really big digital wave of jobs. Basically meaning, from every job that you and I can think about now that we don't think may have a digital component to it, they all will in some way. So that I think that's the thing that we're looking at now and seeing how we can help uh, regions and governments upskill their workforce and be ready for that next big digital step. Whether that be, there's a new handheld device that they're using in manufacturing or in a warehouse or in construction, whatever that is, it's going to be some training component to it. And we know that there's a divide there and a gap that is going to have to be filled. I don't think it's going to be quite as big as it originally thought it could be, but this is going to be a rise of remote work. I think people have found that they really enjoy working from home. And companies have found that in many cases, that it's just fine that people work from home. Productivity has gone up in a lot of cases. People don't know when to start and stop working. I think when their office is at their house, so that tends to happen. So you'll see a rise of that over time. And the cool thing about that is you'll see someone said it best at our company. You'll see more of a democratized access to people with these kind of skills. So you may not have to live in Mountain View or Sunnyvale to be a computer scientist at LinkedIn. You maybe you live in South Dakota or North Dakota and you work remotely. So it's I think those are the two big things that we're going to probably be seeing in the coming year.
Very cool. And I guess what does your work mean to you personally?
Oh, that's such a good question. To me personally, it's when I look at the common thread I've had throughout all my jobs, it's always been about really connecting people to opportunities. So like when I worked at the university, I worked in the career center for a lot of the years. And so that was literally trying to find companies to come hire our great students and counsel students into looking for great jobs. Then I even on my free time joined the local workforce board. And that's also all about taking the workforce investment dollars that are coming in from the federal government and helping people get into programs that can get them into cool careers. So I think that's the biggest one for me, is just like really the chance to connect people to opportunity and maybe open their eyes to careers or a network that they would never have had an opportunity to before. Because if you live in a small bubble, it's hard to break out a lot of times. And great just information pieces like what you do here, what you see on other various news sources are just a great avenue for people to learn about what else there is out there.
Definitely. All right. Thank you so much, Nick, for joining me here today. I really appreciated our conversation. Stay safe, stay healthy, and I'll see everybody next time on Inside Politics. Hi, everyone. This is Christina. Thank you so much for watching Inside Politics, and please feel free to check out the rest of the interviews on my channel. See you next time.